Lucas live. I am flying solo this evening as my buddy Dustin Hurst is a little busy. I'll explain about that in a bit. In the meantime, what I'm planning on covering tonight may shock you. Actually, it will. It's about a disappointing week in school choice and education choice for Idaho's children. We're going to talk about House Bill 669, the legislators who voted to kill that off in the Education Committee. We'll also continue our discussion with education and branch out a little bit into social justice and critical race theory as a disappointing showing in JFAC. Many lawmakers voted to go ahead and give a lot of money, $643 million, as a matter of fact, to Idaho's public universities without taking into account social justice and critical race theory programs that need to be defunded. All except for Representative Ron Nate and Priscilla Giddings. We'll have clips of that, and I'll explain about the March Madness contest. It's all coming up on Steph Lucas Live. So we're back, Steph Lucas Live. I'm here reporting on what I think is so far a disappointing week for education choice, as well as for taxpayers that are against having their public funds go to critical race theory and social justice programs at Idaho's public universities. But let's start with House Bill 669. I have one of my handy-dandy presentations here. Let's start. Now, this talks about Oklahoma. Why am I bringing up Oklahoma? Because, again, I want everyone in Idaho to know that we are not the crazy island of misfit toys. There are other states that believe in education choice. Oklahoma is one of them. This came across today. The Oklahoma Senate Appropriations Committee just passed a bill to fund students instead of systems. This is essentially what House Bill 669 would have done. Sponsored by Representative Dorothy Moon, House Bill 669 would, in a nutshell, allow the money to follow the student. It would allocate about $6,000. So most, not all, of the money allowed per student in Idaho per year for public schools. And what that money would do with House Bill 669 is allow the money to go into basically a savings account. And it would be under the discretions of parents, guardians, what have you, to decide where their child would be going to school, whether that's a private school, a charter school, homeschool, or, of course, if they're going to go to public school, then that's where they go. Now, what some people don't realize, and we have to bring this up, kind of a politics 101, is all bills have to be discussed in committee before they're allowed out onto the House floor. Now, since this is a House bill, it was discussed in the House Education Committee. Monday, many parents, grandparents from across the state went to Boise to testify in front of the House Education Committee about the importance of House Bill 669 and what it would do for their families. As a matter of fact, on my show over in East Idaho, I had a young man call in and talk to me a little bit about the fact that he had a handicap, and he was very much in favor of school choice. He said it would have helped with his disability. So people from all across the state were for this. And I watched the Idaho Freedom Foundation's coverage of a lot of the testimony, and here's what happens. You have a lot of parents and grandparents that want House Bill 669 to be heard on the House floor. It's very important. They want this to happen. And then, who are the people against it? Well, school superintendents, school administrators, people that are with the teachers union. That's how it goes. By the way, I did notice, I've never seen such a love fest for charter schools come out of anyone in a public school district until Monday. For heaven's sakes, all these years that I've dealt with charter schools, sent my kids to charter schools, I thought, wow, I always thought public schools hated charter schools. But the refrain I heard over and over from school administrators was, hey, so we do have school choice. We love charter schools. I didn't used to like them. Now I totally do. Sure, guys, until House Bill 669 is crushed, and then you can go back to hating on charter schools. But That's that's the point I just wanted to make. But let's get back to what happened with House Bill 669. So the House Education Committee did kill House Bill 669 in a vote of 8-7. So it almost squeaked through. It almost got passed. Now, for lack of adequate coverage from many Idaho media outlets, we are going to use some slides from Corey DeAngelis. He is basically someone who promotes education choice, and he's also done a lot of journalism as far as it goes with what happened with the National School Boards Association, which, by the way, the Idaho School Boards Association finally cut ties with those guys a whole, I don't know, 5 months after parents like you and I were called domestic terrorists by the National School Boards Association. So thanks, Idaho School Boards Association, for finally getting around to that. We'll break the rest of that down later. So let me go to my next slide here. We're having Corey DeAngelis cover this. Now, what this is about the Idaho Education Committee. They voted to table, or for lack of a better word, kill the school choice bill yesterday. Now, many of the legislators that were against House Bill 669 going to be heard on the House floor cited their reasoning that it was unconstitutional. That's not true. But in the meantime, I want to play for you a clip of one of the representatives that said this was unconstitutional. That representative would be Representative Gary Marshall. He actually lives in the same county that I do, District 30, Seat A. Bear that in mind now, will you? As I said on my show yesterday, this is not a bunch of far-off Ada County Democrats, East Idaho, that are voting against school choice. These are people from right here in your district that you elect that are against school choice, that voted with Democrats to not let this bill be heard. Please, parents, let my people go. None of that falls on deaf ears. They vote no on it. Matter of fact, let's talk about, doing my slideshow, we'll get there. We are going to talk about the people who are against education choice. Idaho Freedom Foundation put this out. Couldn't have painted it more succinctly myself. Number one, Representative Gary Marshall from the same county I live in District 30, Seat A. You have Julie Yamamoto, Ryan Kirby, Lance Clow, who, by the way, I believe said on the Halftime Report just a couple of weeks ago that he was for education choice. Clearly, he and I would bet Wayne Hoffman, have very different ideas of what education choice is. I think me and Wayne's align. Lance Clow must have a completely different idea of what it is, because he says he's for education choice. Voted against it yesterday. Then we have Lori McGann. She was also one who said it was unconstitutional. Representative Steve Birch, John McCrosty, Sally Toone. They're Democrats, right? That's to be expected. Republicans, however, A2 Brute. Let's move on to Representative Gary Marshall and his speech. It's a bit lengthy about how House Bill 669 was unconstitutional. Here's that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that as a substitute motion that we hold House Bill 669 in committee, and I'd like to speak to my motion.
Okay, motion by Representative Marshall to hold House Bill 669 in committee. Representative Marshall.
I'll try to just be very brief, but a couple of things that I want to mention here. The Constitution of the State of Idaho mandates that the legislature provide a uniform and thorough system, I'm going to emphasize the word system, of public, free, common schools. I think this bill clearly crosses that line into what we would be doing here would be unconstitutional. I think we're clearly crossing that line. Two of the folks that testified yesterday came from the organization called Ed Choice. On their website, it says, school choice is designed to help all children, regardless of their income or neighborhood. This bill clearly does not do that. It is not an ed choice bill. It's not a school choice bill. Mr. Chairman, I'd love to have a savings account into which all the money that is there came from the government. I don't know how in the world we call this a savings account, an educational savings account. A savings account is where I put money in and I can save it for a specific purpose. This is not a savings account in any stretch of the imagination. The complexity and the bureaucratic necessities provided in this bill are again over the top in my estimation. I'll give two examples of things which clearly to me say I can't vote for this bill. First one, the provision that the state, I'm on page 5 at line 27. The State Department shall seek to implement a commercially viable, cost-effective, and parent-friendly system for parents to publicly rate, review, and share information about educational service providers. This state is not Angie's List and should never, ever get into that business. That's one example. Another example is, I'm on page 6, line 15. The department shall have the authority to refer suspected cases of intentional and substantial misuse of account money to the Attorney General for investigation. Most of the people on this committee have been irate that the Attorney General of the United States has investigated parents. I don't think we should be inviting the Attorney General of Idaho to investigate parents. There's got to be a better way to do that. Those are only two of many things in this bill which say to me it is not ready for prime time. I will be voting yes on the substitute motion, and if it comes to it, no on the original motion.
And there you have it, Representative Gary Marshall listing the reasons he thinks that this is unconstitutional. A few points before we get to what the Attorney General of Idaho said. He said this is not an ed choice bill, it's a school choice bill. Is that not one and the same? Is there a difference? School choice, ed choice. What else do we have? He says, by no stretch of the imagination is this a savings account. Well, then what is it? Where's the money going to go? This seems like a savings account to me. And then he goes on to say the state is not Angie's List. I don't get that analogy. It just sounds to me like you don't trust parents. Now, he goes on to say that according to what's in House Bill 669, it seems like it would be inviting the Attorney General to investigate parents. For what, pray tell? I need more reasons. Speaking of the Attorney General, he's already involved, and he says the bill is constitutional. Bear in mind, this was covered by Corey DeAngelis. He covers school issues all across the country. And let's get to Corey DeAngelis' tweet about representatives saying that this is unconstitutional, when in reality it is not. What he says here is the Idaho Education Committee voted to table a school choice bill yesterday. They were misled to believe, that's very kind of you, Corey, they were misled to believe the state attorney general said the bill was unconstitutional. Attorney General of Idaho, yesterday, House Bill 669 is still likely constitutional. Today's March 2nd. Gary Marshall spoke yesterday about how he disagrees with the bill, doesn't see how it jives with what's in the Idaho Constitution, that sort of thing. Well, Attorney General sent this to you on March 1st. Did no one read the memo? Let's find out what it says. This is really teeny tiny writing, but I read it on my show earlier today. Sorry, I should have blown the picture up more. It happens, but it's all right. So here's the letter. from the Idaho Attorney General, and he is citing a Supreme Court case, very recent, happened in Montana, and he says on page 3, it's a long letter, but there you go, that the bill, because of this recent decision, that House Bill 669 is likely constitutional. And there you have it. Reported by Corey DeAngelis, author, Cato Institute, follower of schools, journalist of sorts, activist for school choice. It's a good thing we have Corey DeAngelis there, because Idaho Ed News actually didn't cover that at all, what the Attorney General said. True story. I wonder why that is. Let's put on our thinking caps, kids. Why would Idaho Ed News not cover the Attorney General saying that House Bill 669 was likely constitutional? Why not? Well, we all know why. Idaho Ed News is the teachers' union mouthpiece. I've said that on my show before, and I'll continue to say it here. Why else? Well, I think that because Idaho Ed News always goes out of their way to attack charter schools. Because, like I said earlier in the show, public schools are not big fans of charter schools. Unless, of course, they're testifying in front of the Idaho Education Committee. Then they love charter schools, and they think that means school choice. Let's move on. Why don't they ever cover homeschool in Idaho Ed News? Probably because there's no drama there and it doesn't sell. So there it is, Idaho Ed News, not covering that House Bill 669, according to the Attorney General of Idaho, who Gary Marshall doesn't want to get involved, but the guy already is, saying it's constitutional. Didn't get covered, Idaho Ed News. And that is the wrap up with that. Now, let's move on to what else is happening across Idaho as far as education. Well, let's move from K through 12 on up to what is happening in Idaho's public universities, shall we? Now, I'm going to tell you a story about a year ago. That is when Representative Ron Nates and several other legislators were very concerned about critical race theory and social justice type programming being taught in Idaho's public universities. How did that turn out? Well, $2.5 million got taken away in a matter of sorts from the colleges and universities. At least they would think they took it away. It was, you took away $2.5 million. The children aren't going to get milk anymore. No, that's not what happened. They actually just reallotted that to something else. But you would think they took it away because the usual suspects, Idaho Ed News, Idaho Statesman, reported that they took all that money away. Now, in the meantime, a whole year goes by. Did Marlene Trump of Boise State University or Scott Green of the University of Idaho get rid of social justice and critical race theory programs? Not all of them, of course, because $2.5 million is just the tip of the iceberg for the amount of social justice programs and critical race theory programs that your tax dollars and my tax dollars fund. But did they get rid of them? If Marlene Trump's word salad about 3 weeks ago is any indication of whether that happened or not, that would be no. Also, Scott Green says that these things aren't happening at University of Idaho by any means. Well, sometimes it takes a university professor to point out what universities are doing wrong. That university professor would be Representative Ron Nate. Let's move forward to where we are today. JFAC, Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, is supposed to vote on how much money is going to be budgeted for Idaho's public university. There are 3 scenarios out there. The most sensible one allotted $635 million. This was put forth by Representative Ron Nate because he doesn't want the universities having excess money to go to social justice and critical race theory programs. And if you will remember, there was this whole House Bill 377, doesn't have a lot of teeth, but it's still there, defining critical race theory a little bit and saying, hey, this shouldn't happen in Idaho schools. So that's involved as well. What we have, though, is 10 representatives, by the way, 10 representatives, 10 senators on the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee. Okay, they all decide together about this. Now, what we have are the representatives that actually voted too, and I'm bringing that up, running the whole thing by myself. I'm going to try and make Dustin proud. So when I'm talking, I'm bringing up my handy dandy slides. We'll do that in a second. So what happened is Representative Ron Nate brings up why the universities in Idaho should not have excess money, okay? And if they want the budget at $635 million to work, then they'll cut social justice programs. Pretty basic, right? Let's play a clip of Representative Ron Nate pointing out that these universities have not cut the social justice, they've not cut the critical race theory. Let's turn the time over to Representative.
Last year, unfortunately, the universities have not done such reductions and saved the taxpayers that money. They have, in fact, increased their activities on campuses. Boise State University started the Anti-Racism Center, and if you look at its programming, it is largely critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The University of Idaho started the Black Cultural Center to provide, quote, safe space for Black students with a new dedicated director, paid a salary. Again, promoting the ideals of critical race theory, social justice programming. Both Boise State University and the University of Idaho have responded to the $2.5 million budget reduction of 2021 by not eliminating existing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucracies, but by requiring job candidates to fill out disclosure statements about their diversity, equity, and inclusion philosophies.
Representative Ron Nate making some excellent examples about how commitments to social justice are still alive and well at Idaho's universities. Did that sway anyone on JFAC? Well, Representative Priscilla Giddings, right? She and Ron have supported each other's bills. But let's talk about who voted to fully fund Marlene Trump, Scott Green, U of I, social justice programs. Here's a handy graphic. There we go. Fully funded Marlene Trump's social justice agenda, Boise State. You can pick out the names of your legislators there. Feel free to point. I'm going to point out my representatives and senators. Let's see. We have Senator Dave Lent. And Senator Dave Lent is from East Idaho, District 30, I believe. It's all in Bonneville County, kids, just so you know. And then we have Senator Kevin Cook voting to fund social justice agenda. Fully fund $643 million instead of the scaled back $635 million. Who else do we have? Let's see if there's anyone else I know. Oh, Van Orden from East Idaho. Oh, Representative Wendy Horman voted for the $643 million. She's actually a seat B in District 30. Yes, making sure I get that right. She's represented for District 30, seat B. Very fitting that District 30, seat A, is Representative Gary Marshall, who just yesterday voted to kill House Bill 669. Good job, District 30. There you have it. That's what happened. Funding at Idaho's public universities. They're getting a lot of money, guys, and I don't think they're going to cut social justice programs, but as you saw in that clip, Representative Ron Nate says that they are alive and well. For example, we have disclosures, right? When you're employed at one of these universities and you have to sign that you are great with social justice. That's just one of the many examples. So that's what we have going on across Idaho today. Really briefly, I do want to update you on what's happening with Senate Bill 1255. Now, Dustin and I have spoken about this, okay? It's not a bad thing. It allots $1,000 per student, $3,000 per family, max, from ARPA funds, okay? And that was signed into law yesterday. Now, Senate Bill 1255 is a learning loss program. However, it's called the Empowering Parents program, which sounds awfully close to an argument in favor of school or education choice. I choose to call school and education choice the same thing. Apparently that's confusing to Representative Gary Marshall. He doesn't think they're the same thing, but let's move on. So Senate Bill 1255 was passed. And I just want to quote here the Idaho Press. They said, with little discussion, the House approved Senate Bill 1255 with 1 no vote. Well, there's a reason there was little discussion, because Governor Brad Little wanted it to happen. So that was already sanctioned, right? It was safe to vote for. And then what you have here is in an election year, state representatives and senators who voted down House Bill 669 can actually say, I'm for school choice. I voted for school choice. This is not school choice. This is money to make up for learning loss. So don't fall for that one. That's a handy tip I would like my viewers/listeners to know. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. I had a picture already for this of like a leprechaun, but no matter. Just envision March, right? So we're in March. We have March Madness, but with status. This is really fun for people like me who just don't watch a whole lot of sports. March Madness with status. Okay, so what we're going to have are boards, who the status are, and then we're going to get it down to the final 16, and then to the final 4, and then we're going to have the final 2. And what's going to go along with that? Fabulous prizes beyond your wildest dreams. I hope Dustin's okay with me saying fabulous prizes beyond your wildest dreams. If he's not, I'll throw in a leprechaun cake or something fun. It'll be great. So that is what is happening. Keep listening out for March Madness and your choice, the chance to win Steph Lucas Live, the Halftime Report. It'll be all over the place. It's going to be such a fun game. Promise. And you know, really, guys, after this week, I think we need good laugh, loosen up a little bit with us, with your representatives and senators that voted to kill ed choice and voted to give $643 million and fund social justice programs. Don't let up on them, okay? But you and I, we're going to have some laughs with this March Madness. I think that is all I have for today. Hopefully that was quick and painless. Hopefully I explained it all on Steph Lucas Live. Thanks for sticking with me. I know we were a little late tonight, but I'll be back Friday on time. It's a goal. And then we'll explain a little bit more about March Madness. Nice to have you along. Have a great night.